After successfully convincing some of his fellow competitors to start a rebellion, Jihin watches in horror as his friend Young Bae is mercilessly eliminated, along with all the other players who participated in the attack against the guards. However, instead of eliminating all those who had been disqualified during the rebellion, the guards make a chilling decision. They spare a few of them, not out of mercy, but so that their organs can be harvested and sold on the black market. Later that afternoon, the players who had chosen to remain in their rooms receive a grim gift. Upon opening a coffin, they discover that Jihin is still alive. When he regains consciousness, he realizes that none of his companions have returned. It becomes painfully clear to him that the game's leader intentionally allowed him to survive, so that he could witness the terrible consequences of his actions. A total of 35 players had been eliminated the night before, and as a result, a large sum of money is added to the vault, significantly increasing the value of the final prize. Now, with only 60 players remaining, a new vote is called. Once again, they must decide whether to continue with the competition. Despite the heavy losses and brutality witnessed, 41 players choose to stay in the game. Most of those who had voted to leave the island have now perished, many of them in the failed rebellion sparked by Jihin. The side that wishes to continue playing and win the prize has grown stronger. Meanwhile, No Yule, who had managed to survive the rebellion, finds a way to save Jang So, who had participated in the assault on the guards. Instead of executing him like the others, she simply shoots him in the shoulder and instructs him to close his eyes if he wants to stay alive. She then sends him, disguised as a corpse, to the black market organ dealers. With a clever plan in mind, she convinces guard number 7 to take her to the operating room where the surgeries are carried out. Upon arriving at the facility, No Yule reveals her true intentions. She draws her weapon and takes everyone hostage, preventing the doctors from operating on Jang So. Guard number 7, furious at being tricked, lunges at No Yule and manages to grab her gun. But before he can do anything with it, No Yule seizes another pistol and executes every criminal in the room, except for the surgeon. She needs him alive to save Jang So's life. The next morning, as the remaining players make their way to the arena for the 4th game, they are met with a gruesome sight. The bodies of their former colleagues are hanging in plain view. This brutal display is a warning to deter anyone else from attempting to disrupt the games. The players are then split into teams using colored balls. The host announces that the next game will be hide and seek. The blue team is tasked with finding the exit and escaping within 2 minutes. Anyone who fails to do so must then hide from the red team, whose job is to find and eliminate all remaining members of the blue team within 30 minutes. Those who refuse to participate are eliminated. Members of the blue team are given keys that unlock arena doors, allowing them to move around. However, once a door is opened, it cannot be locked again. In contrast, the red team is given knives, which they must use to hunt down and eliminate members of the blue team. Young Sik, deeply concerned for his mother, Mrs. Jang, pleads with her to stay hidden so no red team player can find her. Inside the arena, players agree to spread out in search of the exit. They make a pact. Whoever finds the way out will alert the others so everyone can escape together. Meanwhile, Jan Hai, who is pregnant, begins feeling unwell. Mrs. Jang rushes to her aid, and with the help of Yinju, they lead her up the stairs in hopes of finding a safe hiding spot. After the 2-minute countdown ends, the doors fly open and the red team storms the arena. Back in the surgical room, the doctor successfully saves Jang So's life. After the surgery, No Yule eliminates the surgeon and orders Jang So to disguise himself in guard number 7's uniform. In the arena, the red team splits up to track down their targets. Jihin begins hunting Diho, whom he blames for the failure of the rebellion and the deaths of their comrades. During the rebellion, Diho had been sent to retrieve ammunition, but, overwhelmed by fear, fled and never returned. Jihin sees this as a betrayal and holds him responsible for the massacre. When Jihin finally corners him, he is moments away from delivering a fatal blow when he realizes he has the wrong person. He lets his target go. Elsewhere, Mongji eliminates a blue team member and is horrified to see blood on his knife for the first time. Meanwhile, Yinju and Mrs. Jang continue helping Jan Hai, but as they attempt to guide her up the stairs, Jan Hai trips and falls. Yinju, unwilling to abandon her, stays to fight off their pursuers. She manages to disarm player 226 and delivers a fatal blow to his heart, saving her friends. Mongji, now aware that his ex-girlfriend Jan Hai is in danger, goes to find and help her. When he finds her, Jan Hai is giving birth. Mrs. Jang helps her through labor, while Sun Nyo, who betrayed her team and ran, discovers the exit. However, she realizes that 3 unique keys are required to open the final door, and she only has the round key. Using the blood of a fallen player, she draws an arrow to mark the way out and goes in search of the other keys. After delivering the baby, Mrs. Jang wraps it in her coat and gives it to Jan Hai. Player 202 suddenly appears, attacking them. Yinju fights back fiercely, even after sustaining a leg injury. She eventually kills him and, by chance, finds a door with 3 locks. Because she has both Jan Hai and Mrs. Zhang's keys, she opens the door, but instead of escaping, she turns back to get her friends. As she re-enters, Yinju is ambushed and killed by a cowardly strike from behind. Jan Hai is devastated to discover that her ex-boyfriend is the one responsible for Yinju's death. Meanwhile, Sun Nyo, betrayed by the man who held the other keys, is found by Minsu and eliminated. Eventually, Jaihin finds Diho and attacks him again, though Diho reminds him that it was Jaihin who incited the rebellion that led to the deaths of their comrades, including Young Bei. Jaihin refuses to listen. He strangles Diho to death, consumed by vengeance. With Mrs. Zhang's help, Jan Hai finds the exit. But then Young Sik appears and admits he hasn't eliminated anyone. Afraid of being disqualified, he tries to kill Jan Hai to secure his survival. To protect her and the baby, Mrs. Zhang sacrifices herself. But instead of killing his own mother, Young Sik shoves her aside and lunges at Jan Hai. In a desperate move, Mrs. Zhang strikes her son down to save the girl and the baby. The timer runs out, ending the game. Because he failed to eliminate anyone within the time limit, Young Sik is disqualified. Upon returning to their room, the survivors learn that 35 players have been eliminated in the fourth game, leaving only 25 players still in the running for the final prize. The voting resumes, and once again, the majority decides to continue, determined to win despite Mrs. Zhang's emotional pleas for them to stop the madness. That night, while everyone sleeps, Mrs. Zhang approaches Jaihin and asks him for a favor. She tells him she believes he entered the game to save people and begs him to protect Jan Hai and her baby, no matter what happens. Jaihin promises. Meanwhile, Noyul storms into the officer's quarters and threatens to reveal his darkest secrets unless he helps her escape the island, along with guard number 16, who is actually Zhang So. The next morning, Jaihin wakes up to heartbreaking news. Mrs. Zhang has ended her own life. She couldn't live with the pain of having killed her own son. The loss deeply affects Jan Hai, who breaks down in tears. Though Mong Ji wants to console her, he can't find the courage after what he's done. Suddenly, a voice announces that the fifth game is about to begin. Despite her broken foot, Jan Hai knows she must participate and prepares to leave her baby behind. But as she hears the infant cry, she changes her mind and decides to bring the child to the arena. Determined to keep his promise to Mrs. Zhang, Jaihin takes the baby into his arms and assures Jan Hai that he will help her care for it. When they arrive at the arena, they discover two creepy dolls facing each other. It's a jump rope challenge. The players must cross a bridge while continuously jumping rope and reach the other side within 20 minutes. Jaihin becomes concerned about Jan Hai's injured ankle, but assures her that he'll help her. Realizing she can't make it across, Jan Hai asks him to take her baby and go without her. Namu is the first player to try, but he doesn't get far and is eliminated halfway through. Jaihin ties the baby to his torso and begins his crossing. He soon discovers a flaw in the bridge, but keeps going. With determination, he manages to reach the other side and places the baby in safety. He tries to go back for Jan Hai, but the bridge is quickly overrun with players. Player 96 crosses next and begins pushing players off the bridge, hoping to eliminate them all and vote to split the prize only with Jaihin. Some players try to retreat, but contestant 203 pushes them, too. Furious, Jaihin threatens 96 and convinces him to stand down. He then works to help others cross quickly, hoping to return for Jan Hai. Mong Ji tries to help Jan Hai, apologizing for attacking Yinju earlier. But Jan Hai, now fully aware of his true nature, orders him to stay away from her and the baby. Player 96 attacks Jaihin, blaming him for ruining his chances at the prize. In the scuffle, Jaihin gouges out his eye and pushes him off the bridge. Unable to return in time, 96 falls to his death. After the final competitor crosses, Jaihin rushes back to rescue Jan Hai, but she stops him, realizing the timer won't allow him to cross twice. She begs him to survive, for the baby's sake. After speaking her final words, the girl throws herself off the cliff. Mong Ji watches helplessly, paralyzed by guilt, knowing he did nothing to prevent her death. Meanwhile, in the leader's control room, the VIPs begin to debate what should be done about the baby now that his mother has been eliminated from the game. Some of the elite argue that the baby should also be eliminated, as his participation in the competition was tied to contestant 222, his mother. But the leader decides to intervene. In a shocking decision, the leader proposes that the child take his mother's place in the game, becoming the new contestant 222. When the other players receive this news, they are outraged. Furious that a baby might now be included in the game and fearing they will have to share the prize with yet another contestant, they plot to eliminate the child themselves. However, before they can act on their violent intentions, the guards step in and make it clear that any further violence between players will no longer be tolerated. Every participant must now be given a fair chance to win the prize. Before the final game, the remaining contestants are treated to a luxurious banquet, a disturbing gesture of hospitality considering the cruelty of their situation. Even the baby is fed during the meal. As the players begin eating, one of the guards makes an announcement. A vote will now be held. But before anyone can press a button, the guard continues. In this final game, It will not be the button that decides who gets eliminated. Instead, the contestants themselves will choose 3 players to be eliminated. The final 6 players will share the prize money. The rules of this last game send a wave of tension across the room. When voting starts, Gahan and Minsu are the only 2 who press X. Because of their vote, the others now see them, and the baby, as threats. The group begins to conspire to eliminate all 3. Meanwhile, No Yule, who is fleeing the island with Jang So, receives a call from the leader. He gives her a chilling ultimatum. If she does not return to the island immediately, he will send a guard to the hospital to eliminate Jang So's daughter. Left with no choice, No Yule orders Jang So to hurry to his daughter's side and turns back, determined to confront the man threatening their lives. That night, Gahan is summoned to the leader's office. To his surprise, the leader claims he wants to offer Gahan a deal, a way to survive the next game and protect the baby. The man acknowledges that Gahan and the child have become prime targets and hands him a dagger, instructing him to use it against the others. Suspicious, Gahan asks why the leader is helping him. In response, the leader removes his mask, revealing himself to be Inho, the same man who had once pretended to be Gahan's ally during the games. Shocked and betrayed, Gahan raises the dagger in rage, prepared to strike him down. But he realizes that killing Inho won't stop the next game from happening, nor will it protect the baby. Gahan lowers the weapon, returns to his dorm, and begins considering how to uphold his promise to Jan Hai. Determined to keep that promise, player 456, Gahan, steps forward the next morning, walking toward the arena with the child in his arms while Inho silently watches. Years ago, when Inho was a contestant himself, he too had received a dagger from the previous leader. He used it to win, and now he wants to see if Gahan will prove to be just like him. To Inho's surprise, Gahan chooses not to take any shortcuts. He decides to play the game fairly, even though it could cost him everything. At the same time, Noyul infiltrates the base and confronts the officer in charge, demanding that he delete all records of player 246. The officer, fearing for his life, reveals that a printed copy still exists in the leader's room. If she wants to destroy it completely, she must keep him alive. As Noyul enters the elevator to reach the top floor, she is ambushed by a superior officer. A fierce duel breaks out. She is seriously injured in the abdomen but manages to fight back. Just as the officer prepares to kill her, Noyul retrieves her weapon and eliminates him, barely surviving the encounter. While Noyul battles for her life, the remaining contestants are lifted by a platform to the top of the game arena, where the host introduces the final game, Squid Game. The players are positioned on 3 interconnected platforms, the square, the triangle, and the circle. To progress, players must push each other off the platforms. If one or more players fall, the survivors move to the next platform. They press a red button to begin the game, which starts a 15-minute timer. For the first round, the players must vote on who will be pushed off the cliff. Mong Ji steps in and volunteers a target, suggesting that MSU, the baby, should be the one to go. No one in the group knows that Mong Ji is actually the baby's father. Though the others agree, none want to physically push the child, fearing they may fall too. To resolve the deadlock, Mong Ji grabs an iron bar attached to the center of the platform and uses it to push MSU down himself. This action triggers the formation of a bridge leading to the triangle platform. Once there, the group tries to convince Gahan to give up the baby. He refuses. They then threaten to eliminate both him and the child. But this poses a new problem. If both Gahan and the baby are eliminated, the group will have to sacrifice one of their own in the next round. To buy time, the group pretends they'll use a lottery to decide who goes next. Gahan, not trusting them, refuses to participate. Suddenly, player 336 attacks him. Gahan sees that his attacker's uniform is tied around his waist, giving his allies something to pull him back with. He cuts the fabric with his dagger and warns anyone not to approach. While 336 is distracted, Mong Ji takes the iron bar and demands Gahan step aside. He then kills player 336 and declares that he is now on Gahan's side. Mong Ji finally reveals that the baby is his son. Now that both men are armed, the remaining players realize they cannot easily eliminate either of them. Instead, they choose the weakest among them, player 39, to sacrifice in the next round. This would leave the final 6 to split the 8 billion Korean won's prize. But Gahan refuses to let them choose. He insists they draw lots, the fairest way to decide. The argument escalates into a fight between the two factions. Mong Ji is nearly pushed off the platform but manages to shift the tide, and instead throws player 353 off. Gahan defeats competitor 203 and saves the child. Mong Ji eliminates player 100, and the round ends as the timer runs out. Knowing he's the next to be sacrificed, player 39 jumps off the platform himself, hoping to disrupt Mong Ji's plans. As Mong Ji strategizes for the next stage, Noyul reaches the leader's room and burns all the printed files, erasing records of every player who took part in round 6. Back in the game, Mong Ji demands that Gahan hand over the baby. His plan is to throw the child off the cliff to ensure his own survival. Gahan refuses. He He offers instead to let Mong-ji push him off the platform, as long as the baby is spared. But Mong-ji is unwilling to trust anyone and forces Ga-hun to retreat to the triangle platform. Seeing no other choice, Ga-hun hands over the baby and jumps into the circle platform wielding his dagger. He realizes that Mong-ji, who would sacrifice his own son, does not deserve his loyalty. Ga-hun chooses to fight. During the battle, Mong-ji loses his iron bar. He tries to retrieve the dagger, but fails. Desperate, he holds the baby out as a shield, threatening to drop him. Ga-hun backs down and hands over his weapon to save the child. Mong-ji stabs Ga-hun, and they both tumble off the platform. Ga-hun, however, manages to grab onto the edge. Despite being wounded, he tries to save Mong-ji. But Mong-ji's uniform rips, and he falls to his death. Ga-hun climbs back to the top with the baby and technically wins the 6th round. But a problem arises. Mong-ji's fall happened before the round officially started, since the red button hadn't been pressed. So, according to the rules, his elimination doesn't count. Now, Ga-hun is faced with a terrible decision. With the baby in his arms, he remembers the promise he made to Jan-hai. Defying the VIP's expectations, he chooses to sacrifice himself. He jumps, ensuring the baby survives, and is eliminated. Just then, the leader receives word that a Coast Guard boat is approaching. He triggers the emergency evacuation. As the staff abandon the island, Joo-ho infiltrates the facility, determined to find his brother. When he sees In-ho holding the baby, he lowers his weapon and leaves. He knows a bomb is set to destroy the island. Minutes later, the entire island explodes, erasing all evidence of the clandestine death game. 6 months later, No-Yul receives news that both Jang So and his daughter are safe. She's relieved to hear the little girl has finally left the hospital. One day, when Joo-ho arrives home, he finds Jan-hai's baby, the last survivor of round 6, along with a card containing the full 45 billion Korean won's prize. After Ga-hun's sacrifice, In-ho visits Gaung to deliver the news. He gives her a box containing all of Ga-hun's belongings and a card loaded with a large sum of money. On his way back, In-ho passes a quiet alley where he sees a recruiter playing dokji with a stranger. A new edition of the round is beginning.